Hello, everyone. Welcome to another WPLN Facebook Live. My name is Larissa Martinez, and I'm the co-founder and president of Women's Public Leadership Network, otherwise known as WPLN. And we are so thrilled to bring these type of opportunities to you to learn from women and men that are on the trail doing and have actually gone through the process and had different journeys and different experiences. And today we're so lucky to have a couple of very strong leaders with us today that will share what they've seen on the trail, especially when it comes to balancing the family life and the campaign life and professional life. And so we're just thrilled to have the Romeros with us today. And I just wanted to note real fast that we also have Caroline Richardson with us. She is one of our amazing summer interns from the University of Georgia, and she will be helping co-host. So we're thrilled to have her as well. At the end of this, I'll give a little bit of information about how to get more engaged with WPLN. But for those that don't know, we are a 501c3 national nonprofit working to get more center-right women into public office, appointed, elected, and judicial. And so we hope that you'll join us for more of these type of conversations. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And afterwards, we will have this recording up on our YouTube channel so you can reference back to it. But with that, I'll let Caroline take it away and introduce the Romeros and get the conversation started.
Thank you so much, Larissa. I am so excited to be here, but I'm even more excited to introduce our special guest, Crystal and Ricardo Romero. Crystal ran for office in New Mexico and had her husband Ricardo by her side the whole time. So we're going to hear a little bit about their story on the trail and their experiences. We heard that you guys have been quite the team. So if you would just want to share a little bit more about your experience on the trail, we would love to hear.
You got it. And again, thank you for having us. You know, this is a great opportunity for both of us to share. And I'll be honest, we're going to be very open, honest, raw, transparent with you because we want you to get a really good idea of what our experience was like going through this journey, because we had some challenges, to be honest. So we'll back up. I just won the election this past November. So thankfully, we're on the other side of that right now. But when we were first looking at the idea of running, and this was something that's always been on the back of my head for years. And I was just like, oh no, it's just not the right time. I wasn't ready to commit my life to something like that. And I really like to get involved with things, that I can choose. And then if I don't want to, I can step back. And knowing running, for an office, I wasn't going to be given that privilege anymore. I was going to have to go full force. So I remember one day my husband came home and we were, I think I was at the kitchen table and I just told him, I said, hey, I want to talk with you, and I think my tone or something about it just came across like, okay, this is going to be a real serious conversation. And he was like, okay, like, what is it? And literally I just told him, I want to run, I want to run. And, but I could only do this if you're on board with me. Like, this is a joint effort. I need to know you're fully committed, because I've had some friends run for office and who've been elected and I've seen what they've gone through. And I'm like, oh gosh, are we really going to be this committed to, the process that we were getting ready to go into? And without a doubt, like, he was like, you got it. I believe in you. You can do it. And he could probably say it a whole lot better than I will. And I'll let him talk. And lo and behold, we got fully jumped in, and it was a wild ride, to say the least.
It was. I mean, it was exciting, for sure. But like she said, there was some ups and downs. But since day one, what I can say is, when she said, "Hey, let's do it," almost instantly it took me back to being a kid, and I can remember, my parents always say, when you're married to somebody, you're a team no matter what. Like, yeah. We're not gonna do this kind of half in, half out kind of thing. It's got to be, 100%. Just, we're gonna do this. And so instantly it's like, okay, cool. Like, this is my teammate. So, here we go. And we dove in.
When she first approached you, when she said it though, what went through your mind? Was it like immediate, like, yes, let's do this? Or was it like, oh, okay, we need to learn a little bit more about this? What kind of went through your mind?
In my head, I feel like it took me 3 days to respond to her, but in real life, it was probably, a few seconds. But I mean, it's one of those things where you're, the best way to think about it is every emotion, because I knew that she could do some awesome things. I
Yeah.
knew that it would be, us taking on another job basically. And I knew that, it was going to involve not only us, but our kids and, our families and everybody else. And all that went through my mind in about 3 seconds. And I think I just said, okay, there wasn't much to it. Just like, okay, let's go.
Real fast before, I know Caroline has some questions too. How many kids do you all have? What are the age range? What's the family dynamic?
Together, our family, we have 3 girls. So we have a 23-year-old that just graduated from college. We have a 19-year-old that is a sophomore in college. And we have a 6-year-old that's going into first grade. So we have it from all sides, from, elementary, college, and beyond. And we're really proud of our girls. They're doing some amazing things, and they were definitely part of the trail with us.
That's awesome.
So, just some other questions. Crystal, we're talking a lot about, having support systems for women running for office. How much has Ricardo's support through it all really impacted your experience? And how do you think it would have been different without, having that team that you guys have?
To be, like, again, very blunt with you, I think that was the most crucial part in, running for office. There's absolutely no way I could have done this and won without my husband's support. And when I say support, like he had to be there, not just saying, "Oh, I believe you can do it," but he had to be there with me, knocking on doors, making phone calls, asking all of our friends and family when we were having to fundraise and, get donations and hold up signs and dig the posts, to board the signs. Like, there was so much work that you don't necessarily think about. It wasn't just like, okay, go ahead, go do your thing and I'll be here. But he literally had to be there right next to me to ensure that I was doing everything that I was supposed to. So it wasn't just like, oh, I support you, but I support you with the work behind it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And I know you guys had mentioned that y'all are registered in different political parties. So was that something that also came into play in this process?
I would say yes and no a little bit, because this is stuff that we have talked about all through our marriage. And we'll talk about politics and, different views, or sorry, you could tell I'm in the office. That's our phone. But we'll be able to bounce different ideas off of each other. Sorry, guys. And to be able to talk about it and to at the same time be respectful of each other's opinions. There's many times he'll give me a whole new insight that I didn't even think about, only because maybe I was raised a certain way and that was the only way I thought, and I was brought up. And he was like, well, have you thought about this scenario or these people, how they're affected? And I'm like, no. And he was able to really help balance me out. And I think that was even part of the reason why we were successful in the campaign, because my race was nonpartisan. So I didn't have a letter behind my name, and I had to reach both sides of the aisles. I couldn't go specifically to one direction. I had to make sure that I was there on, to be able to be the voice of the entire community. And he helped me. And we would say that if we could make it work in our house and with our family, because even our kids are registered differently, and we're the perfect example of what it takes to bring everyone together, regardless of your party. We didn't just say it, because everyone can say the good things when you're trying to run a campaign, but we were living proof of what worked in our household, what worked in our marriage, the way our kids were able to make decisions on their own, what they thought was best, and really try to explain that, to our constituents when we were running for elections. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes it amazes me that our marriage works. First of all, it's like, I mean, we are the epitome of night and day, and we've always, and I think it's a strength in our marriage, and it's a strength in the campaign, is that we talk about everything. I mean, from the most trivial stuff that happens to stuff where we joke around that we have a magic white couch at the house where we can sit down and it feels like every time you sit there there's tears. And, so there's never a conversation at our dinner table like, how was your day? Oh, it's fine. It's just so detailed. And I think, sometimes it may get boring because I can ramble on about the most random stuff at times. And I think, she kind of turns me off, but at the same time, I mean, that's it's key in our relationship. And that's why, our fights don't last that long. You know, our imbalances don't bother us. So if, like she said, if we can figure it out in our house, it's not that difficult. Our family in itself is the combination of, blended families. Every type of social issue that's hot press right now exists in our own family, and everybody lives just fine. We totally live by the fact that, if you're good to people and treat people kind, like, you'll be blessed forever and taken care of. And we've put that out there, and I'll be honest, and this interview may end up sounding like a broken record, but God is taking great care of us every step of the way. If there's ever something that's 50-50 that might not go our way, or might, it seems to always go our way. And it's 100% because, one, our faith, and two, the fact that we communicate everything with each other.
Yeah. Communication, I feel like, is the key to most things in life. I like that. Just to kind of follow up on that real fast before we kind of go into some challenges, some of the more difficult stuff, because you guys are so open and talking through communication, and that you both were so in this together. How involved did you have your kids? Was it kind of on them to decide how much they wanted to get engaged, or were you kind of, this is a family effort and we're going to have these conversations at the dinner table about, everything we're seeing? Just kind of curious how you manage that piece too.
I believe our kids were, like, the term voluntold.
Yep.
So you have to volunteer.
I like it.
They were told, hey, Saturday morning, 9 a.m., we are knocking on doors, wear your shirt. And when it was like, oh, I don't have one, we'll have your shirt. It'll be there. Bring your roommate, because our two oldest don't live with us anymore. One has her own place. The other one lives on the dorms at, in college. And we even said, bring your roommate with her. We need more people on deck. It wasn't like, if she's available, it was like, here's where we're going to be at. Here's the time. We'll feed you. That's how we paid. We're like, we will make sure we have food for you, drinks, that you're okay. But our kids were fully on board too. And I really can't say that they pushed back too much. There were times they were tired and it was hot and they got exhausted, but they were with us throughout, up until the very last day, election day, holding signs and, saying who to vote for and what to do, and really talking to people in line, as close as we could, within reason.
Yeah.
But they were committed till the very, very end. And it was excited just to see them get on board and even share on their social media accounts and, to be a huge advocate for us. So it was definitely, all hands were on deck and we were all running through this. Even our dogs had things that they were wearing. My husband ordered them little scarves, with our logo on it. But yeah, we were all on board.
Love it.
Oh, I love to hear that, and that your whole family was involved. And so I know Larissa had mentioned some challenges, and I'm sure some of them come with balancing, your work life and your family and all of that. So what was, sort of the most difficult part of that, and how did you guys balance, making time for family? And we just had Father's Day over the weekend. So, having the time to celebrate those things that are important, just sort of some advice on how to balance everything.
And I'll be honest, like, everybody's dynamic is going to be so unique to them. We had to be very intentional on some of the time because I was getting really consumed with the campaign. It was all I talked about. It was all I thought about. From the moment I woke up, I was checking emails or campaign reports or talking to my campaign manager. To the moment I went to sleep, we would be at dinner and it was everything we talked about. And my husband would really have to remind me that there was times I needed to unplug. And then I would be like, absolutely not. Like, we only have 82 days left. And, time is of the essence right now. And it was so important to me. But he was like, no, like, we need to the point where we had some heated arguments, like outright heated. Because I'm like, this is the most important thing right now. And he had to keep me balanced because when I tend to get involved in something, I am all in, to where I could probably even obsess about it because I get so, it overwhelms my thinking and what I do. And I remember, granted, election was November. We went out of town in September. We actually went out of the country, went out of town. And I remember my campaign manager was like, "You cannot do that. Like, we are so close. You cannot be going on vacation." I'm like, "We're going. Like, it's done. My husband has already booked the trip. We are going, and everything will still happen, but we still had to make that time and be intentional about getting away and unplugging and taking care of us. Because if we weren't okay, then the whole campaign was going to fall apart. And there were times too when and again, like I said, I'm going to be honest, where I was like, "I'm not doing this." I'm texting my campaign manager, like, it's not worth the stress that we're putting on our family and our marriage, because it's a lot. I'm not going to downplay it. It is a whole lot to remember, what we're trying to do. And, we would have to come together and remember not to make an emotional decision, because there was times I was like, "Screw it. This is it." And he would have to keep me grounded and be like, "Okay, let's take a moment. We'll come back to it tomorrow." And then usually everything played out. But, I'm not going to discredit and be like, everything was fine. And, we didn't have moments, because we actually had several, where I was just like, "We're not doing this. I'm quitting. It's not worth it. It's too much pressure on our marriage." But then he would then balance me out to be like, "Okay, I know we said we need to take time, but now you're overreacting, get it together, really."
Yeah. The I probably obsessed thing she mentioned, there's no probably in that. It was what we did, and that was fine. I mean, we look back on it now, and it's like, well, what did we do last summer? Like, why didn't we go camping? We're like, "Oh, well, we were knocking on strangers' doors. That's why." And so it was hard, and I missed out on things that I enjoy. She missed out on stuff that she enjoys, and we probably didn't spend as much time maybe with our kids as we would have liked to. But hindsight being 2020, if she had asked me again, I think in those 3 minutes I would say no. Like, "You're crazy." We have a pretty good life. Leave it alone. But seeing her go through it, even when I was, the days that I was super mad at her, then I'd see her and it's like, okay, I like her. I love her. Like, I'll keep her. And so, we would have the full spectrum of emotions in a 6-hour period. So that, like, if someone out there is thinking about it, the most important thing is just to stay balanced. Take a deep breath. Don't say things that you don't mean. Don't make rash decisions. Don't jump the gun. Basically, just take a deep breath. Talk about it. Like, it's going to be fine.
Yeah. And I think just to add that too, like, everyone needs to know you and your spouse are not going to see eye to eye the whole time through the campaign. I've had other colleagues that were running too, and I'm like, "How are you and your husband doing?" And they're like, "Oh, he's not happy today." I'm like, "Oh, join the club." Like, we're in this, and because the stress that it does put on. And I wish we would talk about it a little bit more and how to handle that, because I think many times women going into the campaign, when you're trying to balance work and family and, and now you're running for office, how do you juggle that and still maintain order in the rest of your life? Because it's a lot. And truly, truly, I can't say this enough. It's almost impossible for a woman that's married, has kids, to be able to do this without the support of your husband. Like, husbands have to be all in. It's not 90%, it's 100%. And I'll say this too. There was days I didn't want to talk to people. Like, I was done. We would be at a restaurant and I'm like, "I'm unplugged. I've knocked on too many doors. We made too many calls." And he would be like, "Okay, go talk to the server. Go talk. They're in our district." And I'm like, "No, like, I don't, like, I just want to just debrief and have a moment." And he's like, "You're going." And he would push me to do those extra calls or to talk to those people, even when I thought I was spent. Or he would get up and he's like, "Give me a palm card. I'm going to go talk to them." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Oh, he's doing it. I better get my act together and, put my best foot forward and, suck it up and do it."
Yeah, well, it's clear it's really important to have a strong foundation going into it, which, I think to your point, even with a strong foundation, there's a lot of challenges that still happen and still come up. And I think that to your point, there's a reason why people that are in politics can have some family issues on the outside, which I'm sure you guys have seen, because it is really hard, especially because public service in itself, not just the campaign trail, but the passion that gets you there to even consider doing it, it does feel like an enormous responsibility. And it's something that it does feel all consuming at times. And so I think to your point, it takes that balance. It takes to have another person, whether it be your spouse or a partner or your friends or whoever your support system is, to like help pull you back. But I think, Ricardo, hopefully the campaign manager appreciated that you still kept her on track and kept her in the race. So I think that's a good thing. So I know that's not always the case in terms of that. I'm curious though, did you, because obviously she was out and so exposed and your family was so exposed, being on the campaign trail, did you ever experience a particular challenge or a moment that felt either kind of threatening or you felt like, was really hard to push through beyond just the usual kind of, time commitment issues? Like, was there anyone on the campaign trail that, did something they shouldn't or posted something that was really hard to get through, something of that nature?
I'll say for me, there was a few times, and I had to, I'm a born and raised small town kid, where you handle stuff with your fist sometimes, and there was times where, people would, be aggressive, not aggressive with her, but just, very brave behind keystrokes and that kind of stuff, and it took a lot of God and a lot of wife to keep me from, choking somebody out, because, you're everything you're ever told and taught and trained is to defend and protect your wife and your kids at all, at all costs. And so that was difficult for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, both our daughters, the older daughters were ready to wring some necks a few times, that,
yeah.
And so even talking them back, it was a challenge. Like, okay, guys, like we're not doing this because, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. We're not going to, be on TMZ for, political ladies, husband and kids now, now in jail because they said their mom was a liar or rude or whatever. So
yeah,
that was tough, and again, looking back, I'm very thankful for her to balance me on that regard. It's like, okay, well, we can use our words. We can, we can let it slide. We can whatever, because, that wasn't the way that, we were brought up, that I was brought up. So it was that part was the hardest for me, seeing these ridiculous attack ads, seeing silly Facebook posts or, that kind of stuff that even our kids would see. That was hard, because, I'm biased. I like her a whole bunch. So when someone has something different to say, it's really hard. I mean, my parents were the same way. They're like, oh, so-and-so posted something about Crystal today on their stuff. Do you want me to respond? Do you want us to report it? And it's like, no, it's fine. So that for me was the biggest challenge from the outside world.
Right. And there were many times, because believe me, they came and sometimes some of it was silly. Like I would get my feelings hurt because they stole my signs. And I was like, no, they're gone. And, our girls were like, we will just go and being very honest again, they're like, we will go TP their house. I'm like, no, we're not TPing anybody's house, and I was like, we are not those people. We are not, just trying. But I think a lot of us just really kind of rallied together, and it was just nice to, at the same time, to see how much they did have my back, throughout this. And thankfully, like, we didn't do anything wild or nothing crazy. And, we were able to hold it together. But yeah, it had its moments.
Oh, I can imagine. I believe I'm about the same age as one of your girls. I just finished my sophomore year in college, so I understand there. And I'm sure it's one of those things that, you can prepare yourself and say that stuff like that is going to come out, but it's completely different, once it's actually happening. But I'm so glad to hear that y'all bonded together over that, and your family had your back. That support system is crucial. And so, just kind of on the other side of that coin, did it bring any of your favorite family memories from the campaign trail?
I don't know if it's a favorite family memory, but we have a little PTSD when we go through neighborhoods or we go through areas. We're like, oh, this is when we were knocking doors for hours and we were hot and trying to maneuver the app from our campaign manager. I'm like, it's not working, or it's not uploading, and how are we tracking info? Or or major intersections, we always think about, my daughter's boyfriend stood there with a huge sign for hours for me. So little things were just like, oh gosh, like those memories are very distinct in our brain still.
Yeah.
And
there's some, like you said, that in 20 years, I'm sure we'll look back on and laugh. I mean, I tried my hardest to make the best out of every moment, and so one day I told her, I was like, I'm just going to be silly. And I collect old wrestling masks from pro wrestlers.
Yeah.
And I walked up and down the street in probably one of the busiest intersections in Albuquerque with the Rey Mysterio mask on, crystal time, and I can remember my daughter, Mariah, I looked at her Snapchat and it was about 3 minutes of stories of her crazy dad walking up and down, a seriously busy intersection. So, I mean, that stuff I'll never forget. And, we owe that to the campaign trail for sure, Another one is actual election day. Then this is probably the first time we talk about it. We had a huge fight election day in that morning. And we had a plan, but she's more of a planner to the T. I'm more of a, let's fill this out and see what happens. And we didn't, we had a breakdown in communication. And so I did my own thing in the morning, and I think she thought I went to work or whatever. And I was at a different location, and by accident, we kind of ran into each other. We made up on the spot and, ended up going back to one of the major polling places, and my parents were there, our kids were there. And that was just so fun. At the time, one of our friends was dating one of the garbage guys from the city. He came and voted, was honking his horn up and down the street. Just stuff like that I'll never forget, seeing my mom with my wife's sign. I'm gonna cry a little bit, but that was just so cool to me. My dad, the same thing. Like, they meant everything to me.
Well, I'm gonna say that I think it's so important that your three girls saw you be that support for Crystal, and I know that may sound a little sentimental as well in terms of women's empowerment stuff, but I think it is so important, even if there are men out there that may not be, willing to put a wrestler's mask on of Ricardo. There's still, though, having, like, knowing that you will go all in and be there and support, your wife, putting herself forward and putting your family kind of through this, it says a lot. And there are men that do this out there, but I think it's rare that you get highlighted. And so I think I'm just going to take a moment to thank you also for being that example for, the women in your life, for your wife, for those that are watching Facebook Live today and that watch it post live, just because it's you guys are helpful behind the scenes and you do a lot of things that help make women feel like they can do this. So thank you for that. Can I just ask real quickly, do you have one favorite activity that you really love doing on the campaign trail?
Oh, you're going to stump us on that one.
For me, there was two things. One was the end.
Yeah.
Went to the walk. Like we
all right, fair.
Some friends over, and watching her face when I think her campaign manager, someone texted her and said, "You won." Like, everything just left her. Like, the stress just left her for a second, and that was pretty cool. And I think, we both went outside, got away, and that was my favorite part by far.
Yeah. Like, even him talking about it, like, I even feel myself getting emotional because I feel like it brings back a lot of those memories from that night, because you hear like your team is like, you got this. And I'm like, I'm sure their team's telling them the exact same thing, and to see when we finally won, like we had enough votes combined, or our votes had enough that beat the other two people running with their votes combined. We still had more, people that had voted for us. So just like that was an incredible moment, and I think a lot of it was just us. Like, I think it even made our marriage like probably stronger through that, because we had some, like I said, a lot of heated moments, but times that really brought us back together, and how we really supported each other. Because even in the end result, if we didn't win, I think it really, really helped us grow better together and communicate more, so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful I don't have to run for another 4 years, thank God, because it's a lot. There's a lot of work that's with it, and really trying to balance the schedule. Because did I think once I got elected, I was like, would I be able to breathe? Not necessarily. Because the next morning I was already getting a call saying, oh, welcome, this is your position, we're going to have onboarding. And I was like, whoa, it hadn't even been 12 hours and they were already flooding me with information. And I can't say it is let up, because the schedule is still very demanding with our time. It's just a different way now on how we spend it. And he'll watch our YouTube, when we're on meetings, and he'll send me snaps that he'll use filters on everyone's face. And I'm like, oh my gosh, trying to keep it together while I'm in a meeting, while he's texting me, just silly stuff, and just to keep it lighthearted and fun.
Yeah. Caroline, I know that there's an audience question that I think you kind of briefly covered just in this past statement. But Caroline, did you want to read the question just so we can get some audience input in?
Yes. So the audience asked, how did your schedules and demands change once elected? Did anything get easier or harder?
Well, it didn't get easier, right? Would you say it got easier?
I don't think it got easier. It just, it changed, but again, I was super lucky, growing up. I had a great example of what a marriage should look like. And my parents were both very adaptable to each other, and I can remember clear as day, like my dad, his favorite thing was, I'm easy, bro. It's just like, he can figure it out. And that's kind of what I've done, for me anyway. So, she has a lot of meetings Wednesday night. So I've taken that time now. So that's my time that I go and hang out with my middle daughter. We hang every Wednesday. And I'll text her, hey, is this going to be a late meeting? If it's not too late, I'll try to wait for you for dinner. If not, we're getting Taco Bell, like, and so, that's been an unexpected positive, because it's a lot of time that we get to spend together. Some of the other stuff is just, I feel like every weekend or every weekday even, it's like, all right, where do we have to go after work? What event do we have? Whose fundraiser are we going to? Whose speech do we have to smile at, and that kind of stuff. So it's just changed. The nice part is it's not us anymore, so it's someone else's situation, but it hasn't gotten easier. It's just gotten different, and again, it has helped our marriage, and the fact that, like, we're used, before this, we were used to spending literally 22 hours a day together. Now it's down to 16. and so we just work our butts off to, enjoy every second.
Aw, that's such a good way to end this. And I feel like the phone call was, the reminder that we want to be cognizant of your time, because you guys are so busy. So thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Caroline, for doing such a great job co-hosting and getting questions out there. Obviously, if people in the audience have additional questions, feel free to email us at hello@womenspublicleadership.net. And for those that are interested in engaging with us, if you go to our website, you can sign up for our amazing newsletter that we do monthly. But we also have a number of these Facebook Lives and other programs that we do continuously throughout the year. But we're so thrilled that you all were able to join us today. Thank you to the Romeros. Thank you, Caroline. And we just look forward to engaging with you further. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.